come Doctor Doom is so seemingly hard to write? Based on how he's depicted in films, he comes off as one of the most boring characters around. Then you have Doctor Strange. He has an amazing visual design and one of, if not the most interesting backstory in all superherodom. Yet his last ongoing series ended 19 years ago. That said, there are instances where great creators can fully tap into their potential. One example for Doctor Strange anyway would be Doctor Strange the Oath. For Doom, it would be Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom Triumph and Torment. So let's take a look at that one. But first, Dr. Stephen Strange is a former arrogant and pompous neurosurgeon who received nerve damage to his hands after a traumatic car accident. This event drove him to being an alcoholic and spending all of his fortune to find crackpot cures, and that eventually led him to the Himalayas where he searched out the Ancient One. The Ancient One didn't cure his hands, but he did eventually make Stephen the next Sorcerer Supreme. It was during this time that he also became a more humble and better person. Victor Von Doom was a son born to Latvian gypsies. His mother died shortly after he was born. His father dies later from exposure in the mountains after the Baron of Latveria labels him a murderer for not curing his wife of cancer. Victor would then spend years learning both science and sorcery in order to exact revenge on the Baron. The story begins with a flashback that takes place after Doom leaves America and shows what happened after he left university in the States after his confrontation with Reed Richards. He meets a mystic called the H. Genghis, who is the one that sets him off on his eventual destiny. Back to the present, the H. Genghis calls upon the world's greatest mystics for a contest. The winner will be named Sorcerer Supreme. Obviously, Doctor Strange wins, but due to the circumstances of the match, he has to provide a boon for Doctor Doom. So, what does Doom want? More power? No. To have Reed Richards crumbled into a ball simpering at his feet? Yes, but not today. What he wants from Doctor Strange is for him to help him release his mother's soul from the clutches of the demon Mephisto. Despite Doctor Strange being part of the title of this story, this is strictly a Doctor Doom tale. Doctor Strange is being used as a stand-in for the reader. It's from his perspective that we get to see how resourceful Doom is in situations where he has very little experience. Over the course of the story, we get to see how Doctor Doom interacts with the world at large and how they interact with him. We get to see the genuine love his people have for him and he for them. What he's willing to do to accomplish his goal and the one thing he will never ever do in order to accomplish any of his goals. This is Doom's origin story as well. Also, we learn of the Baron that ruled Latveria and how he kept Doom's family of gypsies on the run until his mother, Cynthia, made a deal with the devil for enough power to fight back. But it kind of bit her in the ass when she wasn't given control. The reader and Doctor Strange learned all this history from James, an old friend of Doctor Doom's. After that, Doctor Strange for 40 days further instructs Doom in the mystic arts before his confrontation with Mephisto in his realm. In the end, Doctor Doom does succeed in his goal, but at the same time, he loses something that means the most to him. Hence, the title of the story. Now let's take a look at the writing. Roger Stern wrote this story during the latter part of his first run at Marvel. He seems to be one of the few writers that's able to show how multifaceted Doctor Doom really is, and even shows samples of Doom's own personal code that he lives by. The fact that when you think about it, Doom is a walking contradiction. Also in the story, the dialogue fits the characters' personalities, but if you don't know anything about the characters, it could take a minute to get into at times. And even if the dialogue seems a bit dead, the dialogue just seems to fit the characters, and I like that. There just seems to be a charm or regalness about the dialogue. I also like the way that Stern scripted the story in a way that lets the artist shine as well. For example, there aren't too many panels on any particular page. And now the artwork. This is early artwork by Mike Mignola, and it bears some resemblance to what he would do later in HELLBOY. That isn't to say that it's any better or worse, however. His artwork has always had an alluring and macabre sense about it. You could tell here also that he's still trying to find the style that he would finally realize when he gets to HELLBOY. I also have to give credit to inker colorist Mark Badger. The inks still aren't muddled and they don't dilute the artwork, and the colors gives the artwork at times a fantastical, eerie feeling. I believe the watercolor also helps give off that feeling. I also enjoyed the way Mephisto was drawn differently depending on his mindset or temperament at a particular time during the story. I definitely recommend this story. This is, in my opinion, the best Doctor Doom story ever. The only knock I would give this is it shouldn't be called Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom Triumph and Torment. Doctor Strange takes more of a backseat and his background and personality isn't really focused in this story. If I had to guess, the reason why this wasn't simply titled Doctor Doom Triumph and Torment, well, Doom is a villain, and back in the 1980s, the higher ups at Marvel probably didn't see any sale potential in villains comics. I feel this is the perfect book if you want something emotional and tense for Halloween. It's not really scary per se, but there is the tension there. Or heck, if you want to read a good done-in-one comic. Actually, whenever someone wants to do a story that has Doctor Doom in it, be it a comic book, animation, or movie writer, this should be the story that they all read first. Also, earlier I said it's been 19 years since Doctor Strange has had an ongoing comic. Well, that changes later this year when writer Jason Aaron and artist Chris Bachalo team up for his new series. So please check that out as well. And until next time, goodbye.